Hello guys, it's Nathan from Nathan's DIY Garage, and today I'm going to show you what tools you need to service pretty much any E36, E46, E39, E53, and many other models. Okay, so pretty much what I did here, I drug everything in here on the laminate floor so you can see it a lot better in the light. These are most of the tools I use, and we're just going to go down through the line and I'm going to show you everything and what it's for. I just want to start off with, you guys don't have to have all these tools, and these aren't all the tools. I do have a bigger toolbox that has all my sockets, all my 1/4 inch, 3/8 and 1/2 inch drive sockets. Those you can buy at pretty much Sears, Lowe's. You can buy the Cobalt brand. You don't need crazy stuff like Snap-on. You can spend $100, a little over $100, and buy a really nice toolbox. It just has the basic sockets and some basic screwdrivers. So we're going to start off left to right. Here I have a wrench set. These are Craftsman. This is ratchet wrench and regular. And you don't need the ratchet wrench. It makes life a little easier, but they are very expensive. These could be had for not very much money at all. As far as open-end wrenches go, you could even go to Harbor Freight and get that. I would think you'd be able to get a set for 25, 30 bucks or less. We're going to go ahead and start off with this guy here. And this guy here is an oxygen sensor socket. And you can see it has one side open. Take the O2 sensors out. Makes it a little easier. You could also use a 7/8 wrench. Depends on your situation and how much room you got. These two guys here, these are both 36 millimeters. I have two of these. I use this one for the oil filter housing. This is the nut on top of it. Once I started doing E53s, I had to get a deep socket. This is for the axle nuts. So on E53, which is the X5, that's for the front and rear axle nuts. On your cars, this is going to take the rear nut off so you can pull the hub off to get to a wheel bearing, to change the CV axle, and all that stuff. This could also be had for less than $20. I believe it was around $15 for that. Next two things we have is a 3-foot breaker bar. This is basically just a piece of heavy pipe. Some stuff when you're doing drive shaft work, and also breaking loose axle nuts, you may need that. A lot of times you could do it by hand, but you know, if you're not a real big person, you might need the breaker bar to make your life easier. The next two things are pretty important if you're doing a lot of front end work. Probably any used BMW is going to need some control arms. So what we have here is a 4-pound sledge. I believe I got that at Lowe's. It wasn't that much. It was $14, I think. I use that pretty much every day. Any job that you can't break something loose, especially oxygen sensor, you can put the 7/8 wrench on it. You can tap the wrench with that hammer and it'll break it loose. The next is a pickle fork. A pickle fork is made to take off ball joints. They have two of these. They have a smaller one for tie rods also. On a BMW, you don't really need that too much. You don't do tie rods a lot. When you do, they come all new assemblies. Basically, you just beat them out with a hammer and you're good to go. The next thing is very important, and a lot of you guys, so we can't kick that for you. A lot of you guys know what this is. This is actually a pump that screws onto a quart jug. And in this quart jug, of course, we have our Castrol Transmax. That's for transmission and power steering fluid. You saw my other videos. This does all the GM, all the ZF transmissions. This will not do a CVT transmission. So make sure you know that. This works really easy for adding to power steering also. Put a little plug in the end. These are about $3. Depends on where you get it at, as high as $5 for one of these guys. I keep a couple of them on stock in case one breaks. Have another one. So of course you're going to need a good set of dikes or side cutters. It's always good to have, this is a pretty small pair of needle nose vice grips. I use these quite a bit. Use these if you can't get a wrench on the dry shaft bolts to hold the nuts on the dry shaft. That works pretty good for that. Of course, if you strip anything out, you can take it off. The next guy here is, this is actually a door panel plastic clip puller. This thing works good for a lot of different applications. I use this thing almost on a daily basis. Anything you need to pop off, just many applications. Prying gaskets out, a lot of times that'll help with that. The next thing we have here is a magnet. extendable magnet, and it goes out like this. It goes about 2.5, 3 foot. So if you drop something, especially if you're working under the valve cover, you drop something down the engine, you're going to want that. Those are about $1. You could buy them at Harbor Freight. That's where this one came from. I've been using it for 2 years now. Never had a problem. The next one is Extendable Mirror. So this guy here flips up and he pulls out like that. This isn't a very long one. You don't need a very long one. What it's going to let you do is get behind the valve cover, or what I use it for, and look at the valve cover gasket around and see if it's leaking or not. That works really good for that. Sometimes if you're doing timing jobs, that comes in handy. And these two things here are probably the most commonly used tool I have in my toolbox. I have 2 of them. You don't have to have 2 of them. A lot of times just one will work. These are impact universal joint, and they're limited on how far they can swivel. So a lot of you guys know, if you try to put a regular standard universal joint on an impact, it'll break it or it'll make it all wobbly. These work well with a ratchet because they do have some resistance to them, and they're not all floppy when you're trying to take out bell housing bolts and stuff like that. It works great. They do stay clipped in. They're made very, very well, and also have a 1/2-inch drive I don't use as much. These can be bought at AutoZone or O'Reilly's. They're not very much. They're about $5 a piece. Any BMW owner, you should have that. If you use the impact a lot, even if you don't, you should have that. The next thing you should have, which is equally important, this is WD-40 Penetrant. You don't have to use WD-40 Penetrant. You could actually use the PB Blaster. That's about half the price, and it works well. These are the special tools, or some of the special tools. Everybody says you have to have to work on BMWs, and I was kind of joking when I said that. You don't need hardly any special tools to work on a BMW. So these are the E series sockets. You can see here, these are for head bolts. There's some different cars have these different places. A 4 set's all you need. I got these at O'Reilly's. They weren't much. Hell, they were under $10. Those make life easier. Bell housing bolts are also those starter bolts. You can get by with those sockets in a pinch, but it's kind of risky. Next up is the Allen key set. This is a metric and a standard, just a small set each. This and the star bit set, I got these at Walmart. Believe it or not, they're Stanley. They were $13 per set. Sometimes you can find them on sale for $9. I've had these things in impact, in my big impact, never broke one. I broke this one by hitting it with a hammer trying to get a ABS sensor out, but it definitely wasn't the impact's fault that did it. Those are not supposed to be impacted, by the way, but for $9, who cares, right? I recently acquired these. I acquired these to try to get flywheel bolts out. They didn't work for that, but kind of find out they work well for getting airbag bolts out of the steering wheel. They work well for getting crankshaft sensors out. They have many, many uses. I've been using these a lot more than the short ones. And other than that, we're pretty much about done here, guys. We have some RTV black. That'll work in most cases. As I stated before in many videos, I like to use the import gray from O'Reilly's. That's a lot better. The black will do the job. It's hard as hell to get off something when you put it on it. And a lot of you guys know what these are. Any BMW with a fan clutch, you're going to have this guy. And this was a 32 millimeter wrench. You can use a regular wrench, but these are a lot skinnier. And this guy here, he works. That holds the bolt so you can turn it. It's kind of cheap made. It's kind of BS really, but you do kind of need it to get a lot of them broken loose. These used to be pretty expensive. You can have both these now for less than 20 bucks off eBay. Any of you guys working on a BMW with a fan clutch, you got to have those. That should be the first thing you buy. And next up, and you don't have to have this stuff. This stuff makes life a hell of a lot easier. I have my 1/4-inch drive impact. You guys see me using that a lot. That's a Porter cable. It's pretty strong. That works well for taking off disassembly a lot. You could disassemble a valve cover and coil packs in about less than 5 minutes with that. That's what I use it for the most. Taking out any kind of 10 or 13 millimeter bolts, that works great. This guy here is Craftsman's new Impact. I'll just set the camera down and get that off. And this guy here was 160 bucks, $169 from Sears. I got it on sale for, I don't remember, $129, I believe. And that came with a huge lithium-ion battery. That came with a charger. This thing is 400 foot-pounds in reverse. It'll take off pretty much anything. Anything you put it on, it will take off. It is half-inch drive, so I use a lot with it. My 3/8 adapter. That works pretty good. You can see the adapter is getting a little bit chowdered up, but not too bad. But there you have it, guys. That is 99% of the BMW toolkit. Now you need to remember something with BMW. If you ever have to take the timing apart, you need the timing tools. You can watch my other videos. I did reviews on those. Which ones to buy? A lot of them are between $80 and $200. Depends on which engine you need them for. But that's all for today's video, guys. Hopefully this helped you out a little bit. I'm sure there's a couple little things I'm missing. But that's all. Have a good day.